Hello everyone, Lukzha here, and I just got finished watching the Justice Society movie, and I have a few thoughts on it. If you haven't seen the movie, my first suggestion is before watching a review, even if it's spoiler free, watch the movie. Because you'll get a better understanding from the movie itself, because of your personal experiences, what you've read in the comics, what you've seen in other films. Your experience will be much more different and versatile than my own experience or someone else's experience. So always keep that in mind when watching any review, whether it's mine or someone else's, or whatever you feel like is pretty cool. So in this movie, we see an alternate version of the Justice League set in World War II. And at first, I expected it to essentially continue from the Justice League movie Darkseid Apocalypse, and that would have been really cool because I would have loved a reset switch on that to see the things that have changed in that universe specifically. But it's not. It's from a different timeline, a different universe. So we don't know which universe they fall into or which universe they are part of. That makes it very interesting because everything about the film adds new things about it, adds more perspective about it, and adds more intrigue about it. One extremely wasted opportunity, and I feel like they should have given this villain specifically their own film, which is Brainiac. Brainiac is seen in the first couple minutes of the movie fighting Superman, and then at the very end of the film. It's a wasted opportunity, but I see they might just put it in a next Superman film where Superman's fighting Brainiac, and that will be interesting. Because if anything that we do know is that Brainiac does not die easily or is removed as easily as most other villains because of his techno-organic life form. He just transfers himself into whatever he wishes. He has backups of backups of backups. So that's something that's very interesting because they've put Brainiac. Last time we saw Brainiac was in a Justice League movie or in a Superman movie was a while ago. So I was intrigued when we saw Brainiac. It was very interesting, but not much was done. Then the next thing about the film is that we're introduced to different versions of these characters, and we see Wonder Woman, which I'm very happy about, especially the fact that they had the actress mimic Gal Gadot's voice, which is good and bad in its own right, giving Wonder Woman an outside perspective for one, which is very good. The other is I would have preferred if they would have not gone with it and let this Wonder Woman be slightly different. But then again, it's a very stylistic choice and it's a very minimal thing. Nothing against Gal Gadot, actually she's probably the most perfect live-action Wonder Woman that we have so far. And it's interesting to see that they mimic that to give her the outside perspective and also to somewhat link the DCEU and the DC animated universe in a very subtle way. Other than that, we see the older Flash from the golden age of comics, and even in recent comics we do see him, which is Jade Garrick. And he's a very interesting Flash. They should have picked up on the family dynamic, even Barry just calling him Dad, because he looks very similar to Barry's father, even if in Barry's universe his father does not have the Speed Force. And that's my negative on that character specifically. Every other character is very well fleshed out, is very interesting to see. We do see some low hitters, as in not as well used or not as frequently seen in animated films or in live action films. Well, maybe a little bit with Black Canary, but not as much with Our Man, which was an interesting twist. I would have loved to see a Batman here since they did pluck Superman in there. A World War II version of Batman would have been super cool. But that's just me thinking about that. You already had the human element with, the humans, and also Gal Gadot's, sorry, why do I keep on saying Gal Gadot? My bad. Wonder Woman's love interest, Steve Trevor. And it was an interesting thing. You see that character, you like the character, you see this human perspective in this world of superhumans and unstoppable forces. This film does not have an R rating, which I think it could have benefited from. Not a lot, but a little bit. Because you're putting a movie in World War II, a higher rating, a bit of blood and gore would have been a nice way to add a bit of shock value and also a bit of realism to my superhero movies. That is so stupid when I say it in that way. But nonetheless, it's a very, very interesting way to do it. This movie is very, very, very well made. The animation is really good. I do like the new style. It's sort of to differentiate the universes from the old and the new. And as we get more movies, the style will become more so common to us that it probably won't even affect us, but it's something that we should notice now. The animation is flawless as usual. It's really good. It's insanely colorful. It's insanely dark when it needs to be, and it's interesting all around. Then the most interesting thing about the film is that they kill off Hawkman. Then they also show you death on a visual scale and also show you that these heroes are willing to kill, while also showing that Barry is so naive that even in war, he's choosing to knock people out, while the other heroes are essentially killing them with the force that they're putting through. It's essential death. Even Superman, when we do see him in the World War II version, does end up killing. So it just puts that idea that war has no survivors. There will be death. There is no war without blood spilt. Plain and simple. Which is very interesting. Then, the most epic thing about this film is that it teaches Barry to accept that his superhero life and his normal life will always intertwine and interlink. So he better get used to it and start accepting people rather than pushing people away, which is something he struggles with at the beginning, thinking about marrying or not marrying, which is nice, which is also fun, but a bit nor here nor there. I think it should have been expanded on a little bit more. And we start seeing Flash's powers being more expanded, as this is a very inexperienced Flash, so seeing him run through crime, even on accident, is very interesting. Then what we do see, which is quite jarring, is the tortured bodies and days of Dr. Fate, which I did not think we would see. Honestly, since even though we saw Dr. Fate, I didn't think we would end up seeing him in such a horrid state. But again, it's to push that idea that war has no survivor, and also probably a precursor to a Justice League war of sorts, because they've done this already. They've ticked off Brainiac, which I'm going to assume he's not going to be in the next future films for a while, or he might come back as a bigger threat. I think we're going to be seeing Darkseid and Doomsday much sooner than we did in the last film universe. So I think that's why we got this version and this darkness so soon. Because what we did see is that in some of the earlier DC animated projects, that they started off somewhat at a lighter note, and then they slowly went into the darker side, making it feel more destructive. Then the idea of the Justice League was put in a lot earlier than it should have been in the timeline. He's usually the one person that introduces the idea of teaming up, has been in the comics and in movies in general, with the exception of Snyder's. It has been Martian Manhunter and or Superman, and with small exception at times Batman as well, in the TV show once or twice, and once in Snyder's film. That's from what I can remember at this point. Correct me if I'm wrong. Overall, this film has a perfect setup, even though we were introduced to several characters that might be different when we see him in our DC universe. But they're well-rounded. You see them, you've seen the struggles, you sort of understand them. And it's a good way to get a few of your main characters out. Because in the Next upcoming film is a Batman film. So you've got Batman, Robin, and maybe possibly Batgirl and Catwoman, and other Bat Family characters sort of covered in that. And we also had a Batman film before, Batman Soul and the Dragon Soul, which was a very interesting thing. If we get more films of that nature, even if they're not interconnected, I'm gonna be happy. But the way that they're doing this and the art styles are so similar, we're going to end up seeing Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, Flash, Cyborg, Green Lantern, and all of these characters come back and introduced. Something I really want to see in the future of the DC animated universe is that I want to see a major battle between the Lanterns. I want to see different versions of Batman. More specifically, I really want them to go for the DC metal film. Like, I really want a DC metal film. I know the comic is fairly new and they may take their time to adapt it because it's so fresh, but that comic was so phenomenal that if it turns into a film, a 2-part film, a 3-part film, or even just a TV show, as a standalone TV show for a couple episodes, 12, maybe 14, an hour long each, would be insanely good. So far, with the rebooted DCEU, I'm extremely happy. I'm amazed, and this film is a very good sign for things to come forward. So anyway, I'm gonna sign off now, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.